Kenner thought to make them. McFarlane thought to recolor them. Here's your look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, DC Superpowers, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Black and White, Accent Edition. Continuing the legacy of the beloved DC Superpowers line comes a brand new batch of your favorite heroes and villains. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are featured in black and white costumes with pops of color accents. Sure, they have the costumes, but where are all their colors? Before we maybe answer that question, of course, before we get a closer look at the McFarlane Toys Superpowers, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all black and white and accent editions. Let me back that up a bit, and I'd like to thank first the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did, provide the sample we can have a look at here. This is also as well a 2024 site exclusive over on their store, and only 5,100 pieces of these were released worldwide. These, of course, are also using the exact same molds as the original Superpowers figures, even in fact using the original Batman, not the classic Batman that we got a little bit later. Let's go ahead and also measure these as well. I'm only probably going to measure Batman and Wonder Woman, just because, again, I think the size of Supes is about the same as the Batman, so we're going to only just measure one of them. Batman, though, is going to stand first at almost 5 inches in height, translating, though, to a figure that's about 12 centimeters tall. Skipping, though, over to Supes and going right to the Amazonian. Wonder Woman, though, is going to stand more closer to being about 4.5 inches in height, translating to a figure that's about 11 centimeters tall. To also give you an idea of how much color has been stripped away, bringing in the original Superpowers version of Batman, of Superman. Let's also as well grab Wonder Woman here so you guys can see. Yeah, I mean, if you like the color choice of using the palette of just essentially really black and white and then the accent colors, the black and white versions are really nice. I did, though, mention that I'm surprised that they didn't actually use the classic Batman as really the templates, the body of the build, and using that black and white version of him, because I think that would have been kind of interesting. Maybe one of the reasons why they chose not to is because, again, like the accent colors are only really being represented by their symbols. The broader symbol of the original Batman probably would have worked a little bit better than using the smaller oval-shaped size that the original Batman would have had. Because you're seeing absolutely nothing around the figures right now, it'd probably be a safe assumption to make that the figures come included with no accessories. You know, that would be correct. None of them actually come included with any of the accessories. For that matter, though, I don't think the original Superpowers releases of each of these individually came included with anything either. Wonder Woman could have been maybe the only exception to that, just because she's the only figure of the three that actually has a gripping hand, but she doesn't come with a lasso of truth. What they do have, though, is all capes. Wonder Woman, though, the original release of her would have also had a cape. I've just taken the cape off because I think I like to have Wonder Woman really without the one instead. You can also see, too, that they're all using black and white. Just basically from head to toe, it's black and white, except for one thing, their symbols. The one thing, though, about this is that I think using a primary color choice would have been a better option, where like Batman could have been blue, Superman could have been red, Wonder Woman could have been yellow. But then it wouldn't have made no sense at all, because it's not like they're going to be giving Batman, for example, a blue bat symbol. Yellow would have made the most choice. But again, it would have been nice had they found a way to incorporate a blue into Batman, a red into Superman, and yes, a yellow into Wonder Woman. Each of the figures, though, like I said, do come included with their capes. The capes, though, easily attached onto the back of the figure's body. Basically what it is inside, there's a little C-clip of plastic, and that's been sewn then into the cape itself. It works just the same as Superman. It also works the same as well for Wonder Woman. These basically just plug onto the back of the figure's necks. I'm probably not going to show you this with every single of the three figures, but also to reach off to the side here, I'm going to do this with each one of them. I'm going to bring in the original Batman. Now, again, like the original Batman has a much broader build. If we were to say compare that, just get this guy to stand here for a second, with the classic Batman, which is really my favorite so far of what we've gotten from the Batman Superpowers figures. Ideally, though, I would have loved to have seen what this guy could have looked like in a black and white. But again, like I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the classic symbols maybe just a little bit too small, and maybe they also want to get a little bit more mileage out of this particular mold. Really, of the two, I think this one still has this one beat by the number of re-releases this mold has gotten. The head sculpt still looks good, although again, like it probably makes a little to no sense to compare it with the original classic Batman. I say classic Batman, this really being the first release of him. The one thing that's kind of interesting, though, about the capes is the material that they've used. The original Batman would have had more of a shinier material. It's more smooth to the touch. All these new Batman capes, or all the Superpowers capes, have kind of more of a softer material that they're using. It's got a little bit of elasticity to it also as well. The cape size of it seems still to be the same as the original Batman, so I don't think they've changed anything from at least the cutting out the shapes of the fabric. The builds of obviously are exactly the same to one another. One thing, though, interesting about the Batman is you can see that his bat symbol, even though following the same format as the original one, is a lot bigger in size. I guess they wanted to get as most out of that yellow as they possibly could. Head sculpt still is not one of my favorites, but it does work, translates really well to a black and white release of this guy. Because, of course, the articulation is going to be the exact same on all the three figures. If you're familiar right now with the superpowers figures and what articulation that they possess, again, you're going to only have a head swivel, arm swivel, and leg swivel. I mean, it's easy to say that. Let's actually do that. Head rotates, yes, back and forth. The arms can move forward and back, and you can also move the legs back and forth this way as well. That's all you're going to be getting. Unfortunately, though, they still don't have a gimmick, which is one thing that the original, obviously, Kenner Superpowers figures would have possessed back in the 80s. None of these figures have it. So, I mean, you could keep squeezing the legs all you want. This guy's not going to be doing anything. All in all, though, it's a nice-looking Batman. I like the gray utility belt they've also given him as well. I don't think that the color needed to be any other place on the figure than just really the symbol. The moment you start throwing it to other places, it detracts away from the main subject, and I think the subject is the symbol. So, nice-looking Batman. He does also have, by the way, peg holes in the bottoms of his feet. You could ideally use a display stand. Really, of the three figures, Batman here at least seems to be the one that stands the hardest. This foot specifically right here, and I was thinking for a second maybe the foot was crooked or bent. It doesn't seem to be the case, but this Batman has always seemed to give me troubles when it comes to staying this guy on the shelf, whether it be this one or whether it be the original Batman, this guy right here. Then on to Superman. I really like, first of all, this Superman. The colors, first of all, while not having a whole lot of them, I think, first of all, the one thing I really like about this mold is the head sculpt. I'm going to bring in the original Superman. Somehow, by stripping away all the colors, you kind of get to the basic building blocks of how good these sculpts actually were. I mean, yes, you're missing his baby blues, but at least what you're getting, though, is still a nice-looking Superman head. The symbol, though, like Batman, is actually, it seems to be a little bit bigger than the original Superman here. Now, instead of having the yellow, they favor only really just outlining it in red. I mean, the accent usually is just selecting one color and not doing anything else with any other color. So having then yellow in here probably makes no sense whatsoever. But the red works really quite well for Superman here. Of course, he still has what seems to be the very same kind of cape as Batman, although what he doesn't have at the bottom are the little tiny points. Again, very much kind of a stretchy material that they've used. It clips on the back of the figure's neck the exact same way, this little C-clamp here. We'll just clip it on the back of his neck. Yeah, again, you got like gray here for the utility belt, gray for the hands, gray for the face. It works really well, surprisingly. They kind of look like prototype figures. And sometimes I've noticed, though, with prototype figures, before they start throwing colors at them, the prototypes actually sometimes look a little bit better than the original releases. Not to say, though, that Superman here, the original release, the one that was full color, of course, it doesn't look good. The one thing, though, unfortunately, that's also missing is the Superman symbol on the back of his cape. This one would have had it. The newer one here for the Accent Edition doesn't have it at all. But again, it doesn't bother me at all. Same articulation, though, for Batman as it is for Superman here. Head swivel, hand swivel, arm swivel, I should say. And, of course, legs move forward and back. That's all you're going to be getting. Oh, and also, I should say, too, he also has knee articulation. Did I say that for Batman? I probably didn't. If I didn't, I'm saying it now. Knee articulation for these figures as well. So, technically, 7 points of articulation. Head, shoulders, legs, knees. Nice looking Superman. Easily my favorite from the three. Then we move on to Wonder Woman here. Wonder Woman's kind of an interesting one here because we've actually gotten a couple of releases of this mold. This was the first release, kind of more of a modern take for Wonder Woman. And then we also got, if I can actually hold on to these two, we also got kind of one that looks a little bit more like the 80s toy. Pick your palette as to which Wonder Woman you prefer. This one was really good, although this one was the one that had the original cape. I just took the cape off. You had to kind of pull it off from underneath her hair. This version of Wonder Woman, I don't think had it. Not that if memory serves me correctly. Or maybe it did, and I just took it off. I think, yeah, this Wonder Woman may have had a blue cape. The other one would have had a red cape. Either way, though, I took the capes off both. Will I take the cape off this Wonder Woman? Time will only tell. I have to actually say, though, this might be one time where I actually like the cape on Wonder Woman. Again, though, if you wanted to take it off, it would just be a case of pulling it off, and you kind of have to unroot it, kind of fit it in or feed it underneath her hair. And when you're putting it back, it's a little bit harder to do because obviously you have to tuck it underneath the hair to get a job. Now, the one thing interesting about Wonder Woman, though, is normally, though, the symbol would be the only thing that's colored. In this case, though, she also gets afforded the tiara color as well. It still is yellow. The yellow isn't quite the same color. It seems like the one in the chest area is a little bit brighter of a yellow than the one in her head. Head sculpt, though, looks fantastic. Again, like when you start to strip the colors away, this is the original release, this is the newer release, obviously. When you start stripping colors away, it really gives a chance for that mold to shine. One thing that's also kind of interesting, too, with Wonder Woman, the lower skirting here, instead of having the stars at the bottom here, she actually has sort of this cool panel lining circuitry effect that looks really neat on the figure. Legs down below also are getting a little bit of the additional panel lining. I mean, essentially still using the mold that would have been on the original boots. They've now just gone in there and painted them in a lighter gray. So those really pop quite a lot as well. Again, articulation. The head's going to swivel back and forth. You're not going to be able to move as much here for Wonder Woman just because there's a whole lot more hair in the way. Again, arms move forward and back. Legs move forward and back. She does also have, can't leave it off, she also has the knee articulation as well. While these figures unfortunately don't have any accessories whatsoever, even if they did, Wonder Woman really would have been the only one that would have been able to have anything held in her hand. But I do like this release quite a lot. I'm a big fan, though, of what they're doing with the new superpowers. Yes, unfortunately omitted all of the gimmick that would have made the original Kenner one so charming. But having now the colors stripped away from these figures, as again, like I bring back those examples, get back Superman here. We'll bring in only one of the Wonder Woman because we don't need to bring in both. And, of course, there's Batman. While the molds, of course, have been used again. I mean, McFarlane's good. I mean, some criticize really the fact that they're using, again, like mold after mold. They're just re-releasing, rehashing the same molds again and again. I always feel like if you can find clever ways to re-release the mold, it's not necessarily just a double dip, in this case a triple dip or quadruple dip. I mean, stripping away the colors is certainly one smart way of kind of giving the chance for the molds to shine. And really then only giving just a little bit of color, just only for the symbols alone, I think really give a chance for these figures to really be standouts, considering they don't have a whole lot of colors for them. The one only thing I would have also said too, and I did kind of open up the review saying the same thing, is using primary colors. You know, again, Wonder Woman, you always kind of traditionally think of yellow. Superman, clearly you always think of red. Had they only found a way to incorporate blue into Batman, then of course you've got the Trinity, you've got also, again, the primary colors of the three. That would have been a fun way to incorporate that. But I can understand, certainly from a Superman or from Batman's standpoint, the bat symbol generally is always a yellow, so it doesn't make any sense for them to have made it blue. Had they found a way to incorporate a blue into this, it would have been neat to see the primary colors represented with the original Trinity here. The idea of black and white accent editions isn't a new concept for McFarlane Toys. In fact, they've been doing it for a while with the DC Multiverse line, but it's a relatively new idea with the DC Superpowers. With what we're getting here with, of course, the Holy Trinity of DC characters, I'd like to see them, in fact, expand that idea, incorporating, again, not primary colors, but certainly secondary colors for some of the other superheroes as well. Think of how well a green would work with like a Hal Jordan. And while we unfortunately don't get a blue with Batman, blue could be easily incorporated into a character like Nightwing. None of the characters, unfortunately, have any accessories, but I think even the original releases of these guys didn't have them either. Something that they could certainly do with a future figure is, well, even though if you don't want to give them weapons necessarily, Superman could come with kryptonite. Wonder Woman could come include with the lasso of truth. And maybe Batman could come include with a bat gadget, even though he really doesn't have gripping hands to hold them anyways. Their capes are stock. The shape of the capes, at least, seem to be the same ones that the original superpowers would have had also. Although, unfortunately, with Superman, this symbol is absent completely on the back of his. And Wonder Woman, even though the original ones would have had them, most of the time I just generally take them off my Wonder Woman because I like to have her without a cape. This might be the only time I display a Wonder Woman that has a cape on. What do you guys think of these? Let me know down below in the comments section. Again, if you guys are interested, these were an exclusive over to McFarlane Toys store for 2024, and they were a limited run of only 5,100 pieces. Big thank you again to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample we could have a look at. If you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. While we may be wrapping up things right now, at least for superpowers, there will be more DC Multiverse reviews coming your way and stuff from McFarlane Toys. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.